Breaking news, Dragon Ball fans, this is major. This is a huge one. This is something that, for the most part, you cannot deny is huge astronomical news for the world of Dragon Ball, in particular regarding a reveal that people have been questioning for a very long time now. Many people have wondered, have been at the very least curious about the identity of the mother of Prince Vegeta, aka, what would she be? Technically Queen Vegeta, right? If it was King Vegeta, he's Prince Vegeta. She would be Queen Vegeta. So we got seemingly Queen Vegeta, a reveal. And again, it's very interesting because in all the years of Dragon Ball ongoing, ever since the introduction, shall I say, of Vegeta and King Vegeta and that backstory, so we're probably talking late 80s, early 90s, somewhere there. Ultimately, many people have been curious, like, yo dog, so we've seen King Vegeta, we've seen Vegeta himself. Eventually you find out that there's a brother involved, you got Tarble, you find out certain characters and certain relations and whatnot. Then of course on the flip side of things, you find out that Goku's mom, or you find out her identity for that matter. Of course, there was always Bardock. You find out about Gine. So after a certain point, people were questioning, like, okay, well, what about Vegeta's mom? What's going on with her? And the artist of Dragon Ball Super recently blew the door open on that aspect regarding King Vegeta's wife, Prince Vegeta's mother. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you can get all notifications in the world of anime and manga. ForneverWorld, Fornever News, subscribe, yeah. Because before we get to actually the reveal, here's what happened. Toyotaro draws Vegeta family cover for winning Dragon Ball Super Volume 19. Volume 19 topped the My Favorite Cover poll, beating out Volume 24 and 18, prompting artist Toyotaro to create a new version focused on Vegeta's family against a dynamic purple and pink backdrop. The artwork features King Vegeta, Brother Tarble, a hidden-faced mother, echoing the original's Goku family theme while keeping the debated Royal Saiyan crest. Fans buzzed over the rare mom glimpse and Tarble's role, with many sharing excitement and wallpaper edits from the weekly Dragon Ball news reveal. And yeah, Toyotaro's tweet just said, here are the results of the cover illustration popularity poll. I drew an alternate version of the first place winner. Thank you for voting, everyone. And so yeah, as you can see, this was the cover that won the popularity poll of people's favorite Dragon Ball Super cover. It was again Goku, Gohan, Goten, and Chi-Chi. And then when you looked into the water, the puddle that they're standing on, you could see Raditz, Bardock, and Gine with Goku in the space pod crying. So it was like, the alternate side, the mirror, so to speak, looking through to see like the opposite side of the spectrum, so to speak, or I guess you could say like the family side of things, or the past version, whatever you want to call it or whatnot. But essentially, that was very interesting cover and very artistic. So with that being said, Toyotaro decided to do the same thing, but again, this time with the Vegeta family. And on the far left, you got, of course, Vegeta himself, Prince Vegeta as a kid. In the background, you got Planet Vegeta. Then you got in the center King Vegeta with, like, it looks like a necklace or something like that. Then you got on the far right Tarble, which is very interesting. Tarble is like sleep or something like that. Kind of curious what's going on there. And just in general, the inclusion of Tarble is always a treat, considering the fact that that's one Saiyan character that is technically canonically out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just kind of keep him at arm's length or whatnot. But yeah, seeing Tarble there was interesting. But then on the far right, you got a little bit of a glimpse of what would be the, Queen Vegeta, so to speak. And it's not too much of a big reveal. You seemingly get like the hair, and like it looks like she got possibly like a headband of some sort. And then the attire, it kind of looks like maybe somewhat of a long dress of sorts, like a purple and blue long dress or something like that. And she got like a wrist bracelet or something like that. So you get to see a little glimpse, at the very least, the hair and the attire. And then even there's something like around her ankle. Honestly, the attire, when I look at it, kind of reminds me of like maybe like a dress Chi-Chi will wear, but it of course has the Planet Vegeta emblem on there. And again, obviously it's Toyotaro doing what he feels like doing that at this point, considering like, okay, that's the popularity poll thing, boom, here's what I'm gonna do. And I think it's also a stroke of genius on Toyotaro's part, considering the fact that the powers that be have Toyotaro like completely frozen in motion. You know, the fact that the Dragon Ball Super manga still hasn't been announced for a return date, despite the fact that they got the Dragon Ball Super anime return here soon, the Burger King collaborations, they got all this Dragon Ball, and yet they have Toyotaro pinned to the wall like, hey, you can't do nothing. So he's like, all right, yo, I'm gonna make some noise, bro. I'm gonna tease Queen Vegeta. This is the first glimpse of Queen Vegeta. Could this mean something, though? Because you gotta imagine, right, that Dragon Ball Super as a return has to be, like, Toyotaro gotta be sitting on mountains of drafts for where the story is going to go, how it's going to start out as soon as it returns and whatnot, and could this very well possibly be a hint at what's to come? Maybe it could be that it's going to start off with a backstory going back into the past of, you know, Vegeta and his father, King Vegeta. Maybe it could be a big reveal, because we never even heard about, up until this point, Queen Vegeta. Like, Queen Vegeta was never really mentioned. It was like, yo, you hear about King Vegeta, you get a little glimpse or whatnot, but Queen Vegeta? What's going on here? So this very well could be that maybe possibly Toyotaro has plans to either finally introduce the character, mention whatever happened to her, where was she when Planet Vegeta went up in smoke. Who knows? Maybe Queen Vegeta is still around. Maybe this is one saying that was never mentioned, because maybe Vegeta and her have a rift or something like that, and she's still technically around and still could possibly be involved in the current day time. Like, that would be so crazy. And honestly, it will work so well. There's just so many things that you could do if you was to introduce Queen Vegeta into the story of Dragon Ball Super. Like, the relationship with Vegeta, seeing the parallels of how he's alike or different from her relationship with Bulma. There's a trillion things they could do if that were to be the case, if they were actually going to introduce her into the canonical story of Dragon Ball. Or again, it could be a story of the past in general, of what happened to her before Planet Vegeta went up in smokes. Like, there's so many possibilities if this is possibly on the mind of Toyotaro, of like, okay, this is what he's going to do next. And of course, Tarble is always a story. Like, we know he has like the wife that he's with or whatever, that is a very controversial thing of how, you know, they've been doing or whatnot with Tarble. But there's always more story that can be told with that character as well. Bring him more into the fold. Like, there's just so many different things they could do. Obviously, this could just be like some cool fan service that Toyotaro did to also keep some type of conversations going. Like, some people forget that this is a business. Some people forget that behind the scenes, Toyotaro might be fighting for his life, for all you know, just to keep things going, because the higher ups are just like, well, dog, when we want you to draw, you'll draw. Until then, sit on the sideline. Like, and he could be very much so fighting to keep his name out there while he waits for Dragon Ball Super to return. And this could be a method of doing that, of like, okay, bet, yo, the popularity poll, boom, I'm gonna do something that makes the entire internet go crazy. If you didn't think for a second that hinting and giving a little teaser of Queen Vegeta, or even for that matter revealing that there is a Queen Vegeta, you know, that was never really referenced or anything like that, that's a major deal. So yeah, Toyotaro did that, made noise. Honestly, the manga, the more and more I think about it, I'm almost more excited about the manga's return than the anime. Because first of all, the anime, we still gotta go through everything all over again. Battle of Gods, Frieza, Universe 6, Tournament of Power, Goku Black Light. We gotta go through all of that just to get to the, you know, Moro arc. And then we're gonna have to wait after that a long time to get the Granola the Survivor arc. Dragon Ball Super manga, as soon as it comes back, we're getting into brand new stuff immediately. And if it's anything to do with more Saiyan lore, or Queen Vegeta, or Tarble, or anything in that realm, yeah, we're here for it. Dragon Ball fans want it. Give it to us now. But let me know what you guys think about this. What do you think so far about the hints that we got of Queen Vegeta, the little pieces of the character design that we did get to see? Toyotaro, I'll say this, like, bruh, you could have given us a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit more. You gave us a tease. We're gonna get a little bit more, because this could be a very big deal in the future. And how are people feeling, considering the fact that it was Toyotaro that first introduced Queen Vegeta, and this is not a Toriyama idea or concept? Do you feel like, oh, it can't be canon because it wasn't introduced via Toriyama? Or what is your take on that? Because I'm sure there's going to be some people that feel a certain way, that, you know, Toyotaro's essentially taking the helm of this thing and starting to introduce very interesting and major concepts into the story that previously were not introduced by the original creator, Toriyama, who of course passed. And your overall thoughts and expectations for Dragon Ball Super when it returns. But that's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.